परमात्मने नमः। अथ त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः। In the last few shlokas of chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, we saw that all the changes happen in Prakriti and Purusha is the experiencer. The Purusha joins with this Prakriti and it takes rebirth repeatedly in good yoni and in bad yoni, evil yoni and in good yoni. And what all beings we see in this creation, it's the combination of this Prakriti and Purusha. So Bhagavan Krishna, in this last few shlokas of this chapter, he tells more about this combination. Shloka 27, chapter 30. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyatsva vinashyantam yat pashyati sa pashyati. Bhagavan, that is, he says that, Bhagavan Krishna says that the Parameshwara, he is equal in all being. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu, he is equal in all beings. He exists equally in all beings. There is no partiality. It is not that if he doesn't like a person, he doesn't exist in them or half exist in them, and if he is a friend of us, or if it is Arjuna, Sri Arjuna, then he exists completely. No, it is not like that. He exists equally in all beings. And vinashyatva vinashyantam, he is that imperishable in that perishable sharira, that perishable body. And yet pashyati sa pashyati, one who sees that imperishable in the perishable body, and one who knows that he is existing equally in all the bodies, all the sarva bhuteshu, then he is the real seer. He sees, and we do not see, because we do not see him equally in all beings. If we know that, then we won't hurt any other person. And we never see the imperishable in this perishable body. We always care for this body. So he is that real seer, the jnani, he is the real seer. He is that one who sees. That's the strong word Bhagavan gives. So the soul or the self is uniform everywhere. It is the same in the elephant, king, beggar, sinner, criminal, everywhere he is the same. He is the one being, non-dual being, and he exists the same in everywhere. And he is that common consciousness. One who sees that consciousness, he is the Jivan Mukta. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitamishwaram nahi nasyatmanatmanam tado yati parangadim. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra sama avasthitam ishwaram. One who sees that imperishable being, that self, existing everywhere equally, and na hinastyatmana atmanam, he never hurts the self by the self, because the difference is only in the body, mind and intellect. The self is the same. So if we do not see that self, then we see only difference. We feel that other person is different from us because we see that external body, mind and intellect. But one who sees the self, he doesn't see that the other person is different from us. This is the same way as seeing oneself in all. If we see the self, then we do not see the difference. But if we see the external body, mind, and we see the Prakriti, then it is definitely different. So when we hurt others, it is the same as hurting our own self. When we praise others, it is the same as praising our own self. This is the basic psychology behind the Papa and Punya. Suppose if we imagine, if a person steal some other's articles or object, then that person who has lost that object does not know even him. He do not know to whom he lost it or where he lost it. He may not be aware of it. But after some time, even though that person doesn't know where it is lost, that person who stole that object definitely will experience the same mental agony experienced by the other person who lost that object. Somehow that will reach him in one way or other way. So that is because the self is the same. It registers each and every impression of the mind. So the same thing with the punya. If we do good to one person, that person may not help us directly, but some way or other we will get help from others. But some way at the right time, at the right situation, we will receive help from others. So this is the basic philosophy or psychology behind the papa and punya. The self is the same. One who sees the self does not see the difference. And so he does not insult or hinasti means destroy. Destroy the self by the self. One do not destroy or hurt our own body, but when we feel that the other person is different from us, then we may do that, insult others by words or insult others by action or insult others by any way. If we see the self, that is the same self in everyone, then we will not hinasti, that is destroy the self by the self. So that is well explained by Bhagavan, and he says that a person who sees the self only and not the different, he goes to the Param Gati, he goes to that supreme being. He reaches the highest goal. प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः य पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः. So all these karmas are performed by the Prakriti. Of course, because all the modifications takes place only in the Prakriti. So this body, this mind and intellect, it performs all the actions. All the actions are done by Prakriti. Ya pashyati theta atmanam akartaram sapashyati. One who see that this is self or the Lord, he doesn't perform any action. He is actionless. The self is actionless. One who realizes it, he is the real seer. It is just like the Slokas which we learned previously. The action, one who sees the actionless Atma in the body which performs action. So here it is said in another way, one who realizes that it is the Prakriti which performs all the actions and the self, it is actionless. One who understands like this, he is the real seer and he is the seer, real seer. That is, he only sees, that is, a Jivan Mukta will see that. Only he sees and all the other person we do not see rightly. Yada bhuda pradak bhavam yegastham anupashyati tata eva cha vistharam brahma sambatyate tata. That is when bhuda pradak bhavam, one who see, one who realize there is the different varieties of beings. Yegastham anupashyati. It is yegastham. It exists in one. One who realizes that all these different varieties of beings exist in one. Yegastham, rest in one. And he anupashyati, he sees tata evacha vistaram brahma, and everything is spreading out from that Brahman. Everything is spreading out from that Brahman, and he becomes that Brahman. Sambadhyate tatha. Sambadhyate means he becomes like that. That is, he becomes Brahman. That is one who sees this variety of beings resting in one, and it is this one that spreads out as these different forms or spreads out at this universe. One who realizes this basic concept, he becomes Brahman. And the next shloka Bhagavan says, Anaditva nirgunatvat paramatmayamavyayam sharirasthopi kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. Anaditvat, because of its beginningless nature, and nirgunatvat, because of its no quality nature. It doesn't have any qualities. Brahman doesn't have any qualities, or it doesn't have any beginning. And because of that nature, it is avyayam, it is imperishable. When it has a beginning, then it will definitely have an end. Our body has a beginning, so it will have an end. So it is perishable. But Brahman doesn't have a beginning, so it doesn't have an end, and it is imperishable. In the same way, when we are all made of qualities, the three gunas, but Brahman, it doesn't have any qualities, it is nirguna. When there will be qualities, any one of the quality will decay or it will be of different combination, then it will not be imperishable. It will perish by some time or other. By time it will perish. But since it doesn't have any guna, it is imperishable. Sharirasthovi kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. Even though it exists in this sharira, na lipyate, it is not tainted. Na karoti, na lipyate. It doesn't perform any action and it is not tainted. Even though it exists in this body, which is perishable, it is imperishable and it is not tainted by any of its guna and it doesn't perform any action. So this is that Brahman, that is self. In the next shloka, Bhagavan says, that is shloka 32, Yatha sarvagadam saukshmyad akasham nopalipyate sarvatravasthito dehe tatatma nopalipyate. Just like Yatha sarvagatam saukshmyad akasha na lipyate. That is, this akasha, this ether, it pervades everywhere, but it is not tainted by anything. It is not tainted by the smell. It is not tainted by any color, impurities, or anything. It is not tainted by anything. Just like that, this Brahman, sarvatra avastito dehe, it exists everywhere in this body, but it is not tainted. And Bhagavan here very clearly says that this Brahman or Atma exists everywhere, the self exists in this whole body. He is emphasizing it because some philosophies, according to some philosophies, they believe that this Atma exists only in the heart, and some philosophies they believe that this Atma are many. For each body, there is an Atma. For example, for an elephant, there is one Atma. For human beings, there is one Atma. So the Atmas are multiple. Some philosophies believe that, but Advaita philosophy says that this Atma is undivided. It cannot be divided because it is so subtle, all pervading, non dual. And so it exists in this whole body, but it is not changed, just like Akasha. Yatha prakashayatyekhah kritsnan lokamimam ravihi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayati bharata. Just like how the rays of the sun, the prakasha, the light of the sun, illumines this whole universe. Just like that, this kshetri, inside this kshetram, it krishnal, it illumines this whole body, and it illumines the whole body. So just like how the sun illumines this entire creation, this entire universe, just like that, this kshetri shines this or illumines this whole body. So one who understands this difference, he goes to that parangati. Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuda prakriti mokshancha ye vidhuryanti te param. That is the difference between the kshetra and the kshetrajna. One understands by the jnana chakshu, that is, understands by the yoga of knowledge, or one see by jnana. Bhuda Prakriti Mokshancha. He attains liberation from the Prakriti also, because he is not affected by the modifications of the Prakriti. If a person understands or realizes very clearly about the difference between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, that is the difference between the Prakriti and the Purusha, and if he realizes that I am the Purusha, will he be affected by the modifications of the Prakriti? No, definitely no. And so he is not, he is relieved from the modifications, he is relieved from the Prakriti also. The one who knows that yanti te param, he goes to that supreme. So that is, in short, one who understands the difference between the Purusha and the Prakriti, or one who understands the difference between the Prakriti and the self, and realizes that I am the self, and all these modifications and changes are happening in the Prakriti, then he attains that supreme being, he becomes Brahman. So that's the 34 shlokas of this chapter, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. This is the 13th chapter, and this chapter began with the words of a question by Sri Arjuna, that is according to some editions. He asked the difference between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. Now clearly Bhagavan gave that answer. The one that changes is Kshetra, and one who witnesses it or experiences it is Kshetrajna. One in which the modifications takes place and changes is Kshetra, and one who experiences that is Kshetrajna, and the self existing in this body is the witness. It just witness everything, and this is self completely spread over this whole of this body, just like how the sun shines this entire creation. And that is the answer for the question of Sri Arjuna, the difference, what is the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And in the next few shlokas, Bhagavan Krishna said about the Kshetra, and he said, I am the Kshetrajna and I know all the Kshetras, he said. And he very briefly, Samasena, he said about the creation, and he also said about the functions of the Kshetra and what all values one need to follow to understand this Kshetrajna or understand Bhagavan. He also explained about the nature of the self, that is Brahman, that is, it neither exists nor does it do not exist, na sat, na asat. It is of all pervading nature, and this whole world is superimposed on Brahman. Though it is very close with Prakriti, it is not attached to Prakriti. It appears as divided, but in reality it is not divided. It is the Jodisham Jodihi. All the modifications takes place in the Prakriti, and the Purusha is the experiencer. That Purusha is otherwise said as Jiva, and when it exists in the body, it is said as Jiva. When seen from the universal concept, it is said as Ishvara, but it is not different from Brahman or Paramatma. Any being, that is whether it is a chara moving or achara unmoving, is the combination of this Purusha and Prakriti. The self exists in all beings equally. It is not tainted by this body. One who sees the self and not the external modifications is the real seer. One who sees the self, he will not destroy the self by the self. One who sees the self, he doesn't see any difference and he is the real seer. And one who understands the difference very clearly to the deep depth, not theoretically realizing it. That is when we do Netityasana, this concept goes into the root of our mind. One who sees this different, he sees the self and he becomes Brahman. So these are the words of Bhagavan Krishna in this chapter, chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita So Upanishadso Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yogo Nama Trayodashodhyayah. In my next upload, I continue with the next chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishnaka Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha Tatra Shri Vijayor Bhuti Dhruvani Tirmatirmama Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu.